Ryan Fudger, thanks for coming on the Backbone Zone. Dude, it's Christmas Eve here, so that's a double thanks.
Thank you then for making the time. I'm sorry I was a little bit flaky a couple of days ago, so I had to pull the audible. So
yeah, no, that's cool, man. I understand completely. I actually feel like it's something that when we saw each other in Brisbane, I was like, I've got to be more able to hit these deadlines on podcasts, and that's why I hit you up, because normally I don't follow up as frequently as I would like with podcasts. So no, I appreciate it, man.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for having me. I hopefully I'm not getting the invite because I gave you a plug on the podcast recently, but I have been paying attention to what you're doing,
thanks,
and
man.
kind of the wide range of guests and all that, and it's super cool. So
thanks, dude. Yeah, it's obviously being in Australia, it's a little bit of a different demographic or different riders. You know, I'm trying to showcase them, but then I think just be able to talk to different people throughout BMX is exciting, and you're one of those people that I feel like, even though you've got your own podcast, it makes sense to be able to talk to you, because you're probably asking questions, and I want to hear from Ryan Fudger, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe people are tired, but that's the way I look at it. I'm like, are you sure? Because I feel like people hear my voice enough. It kind of weirds me out, honestly. So.
Nah, man, it's yeah, I thank you a lot for coming on, and I think that you've got like a lot of insight into a lot of the things that go on in BMX that aren't necessarily riding, and that's something that I like to explore through podcasts.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but we'll start off with the easy things. How's your time in Australia?
It was good. It was short. Not as bad as last time. I think the last I was there for X Games Sydney.
Oh wow.
Or something like that, and then that street series, I believe that one was in Melbourne, or maybe I haven't crossed up, but whatever the street series one, I was only there for 30 hours. I was on the plane back home, and I was angry. Like, why did I just do this to myself? But it makes, kind of makes sense to me on paper at times when I have a bunch of other stuff going on, to just like get it done and head out there. But this time at Brisbane, unfortunately there was rain that first day, but even just going to we went to the koala sanctuary or something, kangaroo, we hung out and did stuff, and then I made time to go to Clint's Ramps the day after the jam. So I felt like I got a little sample of it, instead of just film all day, sit on the computer, fly home. So it was cool. It was cool to be out there and kind of get names, faces to names, and shake hands of people that I've heard about and knew about for years, and getting to meet people is always cool. So
yeah, I feel like that would be a really tough thing to have to go to so many places but just be there for work. I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty normal for me. I really have tried to make a very conscious effort to ride bikes on trips this year, where in the past, I have a bunch of stories about, well, not a bunch, but I have a couple stories during the ride days where, I was just essentially a kid, like 23, 24, and you're on a trip with your heroes effectively, or like people that you look up to and incredible bike riders, and you want people to know that you're good at riding bikes too. And then so I would, not only would I try and ride, but I would push it.
Sure.
And there was a couple of times where I got hurt on trips, and then I was absolutely miserable, and I wouldn't, it kind of just ruined the work element to me, because it just flipped my switch. And so for a long time, I kind of chilled on riding on trips. I'd cruise a little bit here and there, but this year I feel like it swung back a whole way, where I wasn't really bringing my bike anymore. I wasn't really riding on trips and stuff like that. And now I'm really trying to make a conscious effort to bring my bike and at least get one session in somewhere.
Yes.
So yeah,
that's good.
Force it. And it honestly hurts my work, because I do, end up not sitting at the computer afterwards when I should be or something like that. But it's worth it. It kind of keeps me sane a little bit more. So.
Yeah, man. Well, that's kind of what I wanted to get into just to start with was, the Ride BMX days, coming from Ride through to what you're currently doing, and sort of understanding how that journey's been for you, because as I said to you off air just before we started, it's like you've been a part of this BMX industry but not as a bike rider, and I think that's actually really special place to be holding within BMX. So I guess tell me a little bit about your, not necessarily like your journey with Ride, but how it felt when you went from being, I'm guessing, this dude that was shooting photos and things like that, to then being like, oh, I'm actually having to sort of influence, I guess, from the outside in.
Oh,
what BMX looked like, how it felt like, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ride days, when I think back, is like we were always, depending on if you liked or disliked Ride, it was always like being accused of being a gatekeeper in certain ways, just because, there's only so many pages in a magazine, and why does this person get the cover and this person doesn't? And, there's multiple examples over the years of people having essentially like valid questions about how things were handled. And, there was a comment on YouTube recently where it was like the dawn of the streets thing, how we had the name of somebody in a clip that they fell, and then they had a clip later in the video that they pulled and that we didn't have their name in it, and like why we did them dirty. Like people just like spin their gears on stuff, and I'm like, dude, we are not that calculated. Like, it is not like some underhanded thing, Even back with the magazine, it's like the power of hindsight and the way you go, oh, now I see how this looks for the outside looking in. But for us, we made that decision based off of X, Y, and Z, and you're looking at it from a different lens, no pun intended with the photographer thing. But it's always open to interpretation and motivations and money and stuff like that. And for me, I can't speak because I was an editor under Losi, and then I was under Mulligan for a lot, and then I became senior editor. And I don't think under my watch, there was never really decisions that were like, we're doing this because this person gets a photo because this person doesn't, or this brand works with us and stuff like that. Like, of course, there's like road trips and stuff that was in the magazine where it's like if a brand supported us all year long, then we should do a road trip with them, and not a brand that has never supported us. That is like bad business in the end, But some people don't like to hear that. Like some people think that is like, that's like so obvious to me of being in the industry, of like, that's how it works, that some people, that's the first time they may hear that, if that, things that I find that are incredibly obvious to me 20 years later, people it's new to them, and hearing this is how this works and this is how this works is like, oh shit. So I don't know.
Do you have any actual examples of maybe something where like got under someone's skin?
Yeah, well, the big one that it comes to Ride is the Morgan Wade Baldy loop.
Okay.
So that cover, ironically, it was actually the first cover I ever shot of the magazine. And it was of Steve McCann doing a no-hander on the mini ramp at Mongoose or something, or at Mongoose, at Woodward.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve McCann rode for Mongoose, of course, which was a supporter of the magazine, but he also had the main interview in the magazine at the time. And generally, if you look at any covers, the person that's riding on the cover has some sort of tie-in to the magazine. That was always the way it worked, is, Rooftop had a cover is because he had an interview inside, or he was part of a road trip or something like that. And there was always a tie-in to it, where the Morgan photo was crazy, but Morgan didn't have anything else in the issue. So there was that, and then there was also at the time period another skate magazine had just put Baldy on the cover, like somebody looping Baldy like 2 or 3 months earlier, or like pretty recent. So it felt like we were like going after their coattails. But then, that caused a bunch of issues of like, why is this guy with a stock no-hander, get a cover of the magazine? This dude did something revolutionary, and he's on the TOC, or he just has a photo. And that was like a very I guess talked about thing at the time of why Morgan wasn't on the cover. But for us it made sense, at no point. And that was when Losi was the editor. Like I said, it was my first cover ever that I ever shot, so I was super young, and it felt like for me it was Losi was making the decision. But I don't know what his motivations were, like, oh, Mongoose is going to be pissed if we don't put McCann on the cover. That was never said out loud, but maybe deep down in there he was like, yeah, this is the reason we made this decision, on top of those other things that McCann did have an interview, did have this, but who knows. So that's probably like the most notable one that I always think of. But there is always not featuring certain riders, etc., and I'm sure there's many over the years, but I don't know.
The year was 2017, Vans Pro Cup in Manly, Australia, and I'd made the finals. First run, I landed this tail whip transfer that I'm super proud of, one of the biggest tail whip transfers I've done to this day. And then the next air, my legs cramp up and I couldn't continue the run. I was actually having cramps the entire time leading into this finals. I somehow barely even made finals because I was having savage cramps. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? Turns out I had an electrolyte imbalance because I was sweating so much. I was losing all these electrolytes and I didn't know what to do about it. I started taking electrolyte supplements that next year for the next Vans Pro Cup, and it was a game changer. I've since then been taking electrolyte supplements since that time, so 2018 through to now, and I'm glad to be able to find one that's Australian owned, and that is Sodi. So Sodi uses Australian salt. It uses the correct amount of sodium, magnesium, and potassium to give you the ability to bypass things like cramps, things like fatigue, headaches. It's even really good for this Christmas and holiday season with hangovers. A lot of the reason why you're hungover is because you have lost electrolytes. Get them back. Use Sodi. Go to sodi.com.au, that's sodii.com.au/Tyson, and use the code BACKBONE for 15% off. I'm telling you, having electrolytes in your diet as a part of an everyday supplement is the best thing I have ever done, and I promise you'll find it too, especially if you are someone who has just tried to clean up their diet. Maybe you're not eating as much junk food and you're trying to make sure that you are getting the correct amount of salt. So head to sodi.com.au/Tyson, use the code word BACKBONE, 15% off, and we'll get back to the program. Yeah, it's interesting. I was just randomly, I don't think I follow him, but not for any real reason, but that Brant Moore guy, I saw that there was just that clip that was going around with that Joey Cobbs.
With Joey, yeah.
And they were talking about, the amount of pay that riders get should be, like, I guess there should be an ROI on that, so a return on investment on that pay. What's your thoughts with that sort of stuff?
I was texting somebody and I said, like, do owners of brands, deserve to be rich, quote unquote, and that's a Moeller, that's a Zach Phillips, that's Clint Miller, that's Ronnie Bonner. Those brands, those dudes have been in BMX for 20 years, 25 years. They took the risk, they've had success. Of course they deserve to be well off at a point, and then but the riders also deserve more as well for what they're doing for the brand. And I think we had the debate on the podcast, also involving Joey, with the warehouse worker versus the pro rider, and it's just it's a hard thing. And that number that Joey threw out was from his perspective of working at Haro, which has a massive building in Southern California. They have they have a secretary, they have finance people, they have insurance people, they have multiple salespeople. They have so much overhead that number may make sense for Haro, but I don't think it makes sense for an S&M. I don't think it makes sense for a colony that a rider needs to sell that much. And I also just think that it's just a little bit of a in the wind thing of how you can attribute sales to riders. And and promo codes is one way, or affiliate links is another way, but that's something that I think is inherently flawed in how they work, because you could just be good at link farming stuff, or you could run Google ads on people that search fit bike code discounts or something like that, and then you could find the link that way. It doesn't mean that you are a good bike rider, and that's why people are selling stuff or people are buying stuff. And so there's also, just with BMX, it's like, Brant Moore is my favorite bike rider, but like I don't like his bars, so I like the brand, but I'm gonna buy the other person's bars. And it's like there's so many flaws with it, and how to actually track that I don't think saying, even if the number was true, the ability to track how much that rider is selling is like impossible. Yeah. Unless you're only counting signature goods, which I think which discredits them in a lot of ways. Yeah. So, but I mean, do riders deserve more money? Fuck yeah. So I mean, that's the end all be all. Of course, I think everybody, the concern with a lot of this stuff that I try and keep it pretty lighthearted when it comes to industry stuff. And even when I worked at Ride, until I had to know, I actually didn't know how much brands paid or anything like that. Like, I really try to keep it like church and state, because I'm not like, I don't want to know that shit. Like, I wanted to shoot photos and create cool stuff. Yeah. Like, why the fuck would I want to know how much this brand is paying, or even how much my friends made? I never knew how much Gary Young made from any of, like, he's my best friend, and that was always like, I never asked, because I never wanted to know. Like, I just felt like it wasn't my business, and I don't want to get into getting into the money shit of BMX makes BMX like keeps it from being a hobby, keeps it from being something fun. And when money stuff gets online, and I'm not, obviously, like, that is my world, and I've like tiptoed my way into what I know right now, but I still don't, like, up until recently, my business partner was like the sales dude for Ride, so he handled all sales. And then up until whatever 22 or something like that, like, so it's in 22 I started handling sales, and I'm pretty fucking shit at it, because I'm like, what do you want to pay, man? Like, no worries, like, it's fine. So I'm not super good at that stuff. So
yeah, it's such a hard one, because you're exactly right. Like, BMX is such an art form, and everything about it is like just an expression. But then on the same side of that, in the same breath, you like I want like Clint Reynolds or whoever it is, Jason Watts, to get paid like, bloody good money. Those guys are inspirational. And I think that exactly what you said, there's not a lot of tangibility to how much a rider can influence someone. But then on the same side, it's like they need to be able to influence people, because I guess at the end of the day, there's brands that are selling stuff or not selling stuff that that's how they make ends meet.
I think there's a battle, because obviously I make my living off of BMX. I've made my living off of BMX since I was 21, or out of BMX, not off of BMX or whatever. But I think part of what makes BMX always so awesome is that it is small. it is like so flawed in that we won't allow ourselves to grow, and that there aren't that many people making that much money. So then the people that want to make money just fucking leave. And it's like, yeah, sometimes they're good people, but sometimes it just weeds those people out. The fucking assholes they're just out from the beginning, So then when you see a BMXer that generally they're cool because they have to be this certain level of fucking batshit crazy to do this for 10 years or more, that you are pretty much on the same wavelength, So it is like, it's something that's like, it's like beautifully fucked, like BMX doesn't evolve. It's like the bike stays a frame. It stays exactly the same. You need two tools. Like innovation, fuck out of here. And that's what makes it cool. When I go to little dirt jump park and I just hear mountain bikers talking about fucking types of derailers and millimeters and stuff, I'm like, oh my god, get out of here. So it's just not I like how BMX is like so self-destructive in certain ways, I think that's what makes it good. Obviously, from an industry standpoint, it's like, I wish more of my friends could make a living because I like fucking hanging out with them and I know they love this shit, and it's, of course, so it's hard to be of like a little bit of like two worlds about it, where it's like, because for me, it could be the same. Like I could, 5 years from now, I could have to go get a fucking real job or something, So
yeah.
But which would be Jiffy Lube. I've said that for like 15 years. So, which you may not even have Jiffy Lubes over there.
We don't.
So it's an oil change place.
Okay. Yeah.
Not really future proof with electric cars as I thought it was 15 years ago. So, but.
It's, far out. Like, it doesn't. I've been thinking about this subject a lot, because obviously I own a BMX shop, but at the same time, I do the podcast because I love being able to learn more about BMX. It's like especially as BMX. I'm realizing as I get older that BMX is a lot more than just riding BMX. There's a lot of things that you can take part in with BMX. It doesn't necessarily involve riding at the highest level.
Yeah.
So it's just a fun sort of topic, I guess, to continue.
No, it's obviously it's a polarizing one. Those comments in there were pretty funny. Like Charlie was in there, and then I think Dane Wild had his username wasn't really telling on who it was, but it was Dane Wild, who, used to be a pro rider and worked for Albies for many years. So he's pretty well, traveled in the industry, and their takes were always like pretty on point for them, like Charlie was saying that, like, you expect a kid to come in and then be great at marketing. It's like, dude, he's good at feeble grinds. Like you sponsored a kid because he's good at jumping his bicycle and grinding on something. Like if a brand has that expectation, then they need to lay that out and help them grow into the marketer that they want the rider to be.
For sure,
and you can't expect a 20-year-old dude to be like genius at it. But I think from a company owner's perspective, playing both sides, is that Muller, saying because of Charlie, Muller is saying like, hey, post the product, and the riders won't ever do it. And he's like, no, I'm not asking for a fucking, like some viral video that takes all this stuff. He's like, I just post the products so we can sell the products. That's what pays your payment. That's what pays your salary. So it definitely goes both ways with it. So
for sure.
But
yeah,
I think Muller actually texted me that string because I didn't see it. Like I've been pretty. I'm actually not on the internet as much as I probably seem to be. But he texted me that, and then it was like interesting to it was like 160 comments deep or something by the time I saw it the first time. So it had like more. I think it had more comments than likes, which was
wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I'm kind of tripping on that. So, um, but yeah, I mean, it's always I respect what Brant is like trying to open up the dialogue of that stuff and kind of discuss what is wrong with the industry. I think sometimes it's, at a point it comes across as just like kind of that's like the niche of it is that he like talks about all the bad stuff with the industry. I'm sure he talks about more and good stuff and more about good stuff is what I'm saying. And it seems like he just kind of jumps on whenever there's like a industry drama, where it's like it's fucking old drama. I mean, it's just been going on for 20, it's just been going on since fucking, I don't know, fucking Dave Vanderspec or something like that. Like the old, old. It's always been a plight of any sport is the company owners versus the athletes. That is,
For sure.
that is a discrepancy that has been going through all sports and all time. So, I think it's important though, and they're not gonna think that they need to raise the salaries or payments for riders if nobody tells them that.
Yeah. So, I mean, my take on it is, right, and I feel like, I was thinking about it the other day, is you, as Our BMX, and obviously formerly you were a big part of Ride BMX, and me as a shop owner, we're very much the same sort of thing in that we kind of like push out to the world BMX in general. Like we're stocking all these different bike brands, and you're trying to like represent what's cool within BMX as a whole, and then hopefully people will take part in BMX, essentially, if you're talking about it from an industry perspective. And I think that like it probably is the brand. I would say that it's a lot more the brand's job than it currently has been. Like in my opinion, I don't think exactly what you just said about the kid gets good at doing feeble grinds enough to where a brand sponsors him. It shouldn't then be up to the kid to be like, all right, now I've got to sell this bike product. I think that it should be the bike brand being like, okay, what direction do I need to take this kid so that I can sell more bike parts?
Yeah, and that's up to the brand, and that's the brand. That's definitely on the back of the brand. And then if the rider doesn't meet that criteria, then that relationship doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Despite if you're incredible at riding bikes.
Yeah. I mean, I've got this analogy that I don't even know if it's true, and I can't imagine that I've said it on the podcast before, but essentially I have this analogy that I was speaking with my friends about, and it's like, say Clint Reynolds and the Credence gang, right? So they get their frames, and they're sick bike riders, and yes, the underground BMX world knows them or whatever. But Moeller had the foresight to be like, I'm going to spend X amount of money to send Matty, Nutter, and Clint across to Australia and New Zealand. I'm going to fly them all around. I'm going to get Stu Johnson to go with them, and I'm going to fly them all around, and then I'm going to pay money to Stu, and they're going to make this fucking hour-long DVD, which is the second Credence video that came out. So he spent all of this money, but then in return got fucking just about everyone in Australia to buy a CCR frame. You know what I mean? Plus probably cemented years worth of subsequent frame sales based on, Moeller was like, all right, rather than me spending $0 and not sending these guys anywhere and just expecting off their own bat to be good riders and good marketers and post often on Instagram. Yeah. He was like, I'm going to spend $25,000 or whatever it would have cost him to do all that, but it would have come back to him like so much more. Yeah. And I don't know.
I think that those are decisions that get made when you have money in the bank account.
Correct.
Once that money and things are looking tight and feeling tight, doing stuff like that takes a risk or feels like a risk. And it is a risk, and the payback is not guaranteed, and the payback is over a lot of time. So as we've seen after COVID and, the surplus of bikes and, a little bit of a race to the bottom and stuff like that, when marketing is the first thing to go, it's always the first thing to go. It's less essential than your warehouse worker. The rider is not as less essential than your warehouse worker, unfortunately. Easily replaceable. The warehouse worker is easily replaceable compared to the bike rider, of course. But like, you can't ship bikes without somebody in the warehouse. So it is, tough times. Tough times produce fucking oddball scenarios, and that's where we're at right now. And it's like, you can go back to the Mueller podcast. He's like, I'm paying everybody in seats in the future. He's like, I'm not gonna have money, I'm gonna have seats. and we're in a little bit of that right now, where he's like, sell some seats for me, so I'll pay you more. So, and it's like, there's a lot of amazing bike riders out there, and there's proactive bike riders, and then there's a lot of bike riders that grew up with people hitting them up to do stuff and being like, hey, we're filming a full-length project, let's get in the van or get on the plane, go to Australia, and where it works for those riders. And then you have different styles of riders, the Jaron Barboza and the Billy Perry and stuff, that are really, really incredibly proactive and like getting these like influencer type deals and doing a different path. And even Dennis is not on like in some influencer thing, but dude doesn't need anybody to tell him anything to like oh, it's Wednesday, go jump off on a roof and then off a roof, like that's just the way he is built, so he doesn't need an excuse to like go get fucking wild, where some people do.
Yeah. So,
and it's like, I mean, I hope the industry does I assume it will settle down. I always say it's like COVID was like this big wavy thing, and then hopefully it kind of the ripples settle down. And
that's right.
And I think a brand like GT going under, GT switched back to IBDs. They switched back to bike shops like 2 years ago or something. You would know this better than I would, but so they were selling to bike shops. So hopefully, I shouldn't say numbers, but 16,000. I know at least one model of a GT sold 16,000 last year. Wow. So hopefully, if they're not doing that next year, that goes to a different brand within BMX and not like a fucking Elite or something weird like that. The idea is that vacuum created by GT is hopefully filled up with the core endemic BMX brands, and those 40,000 bikes that GT sold in 2023 or 2024, whatever it is, and I'm making that number up, but those bikes that sold gets now sold by another BMX brand, or two or three or four. I'm sure there's 4 brands that could sell 10,000 bikes, and they'd be like fantastic.
So for sure.
It hopefully that stuff like that helps in the years to come, because that's brands need to fall out eventually. Mm-hmm. If there's no slice of the pie that'll actually like keep you going, then something needs to change.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, totally. Switching it up a bit, so I guess I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the whole Our BMX experience, and also just the Ride BMX experience. So like,
yep.
Currently obviously doing Our BMX, which includes the Unclicked Podcast and stuff like that. But what is it that you do sort of day to day, week to week, that makes you call Our BMX your job?
I mean, it really is. It's that is a good question, honestly, because sometimes it doesn't necessarily even feel like it. Like I said, I've been doing this for so long at this point that like getting up and getting on the computer and just working for a little while, and then editing some stuff, and then answering emails, and then there's a lot of like kind of back and forth and just like I can have straight email days essentially. So the amount of emails I get, even if it's just like farming it out to the dudes or sending it, because like we have Pat and James and Albert that help out and post on Instagram and stuff like that. And, things take time, and it's just random stuff. I mean, it is, I generally work better when, like I said, like I have an email day and I'll have an editing day, and I'll do that where I'm like strictly editing, or I'm strictly handling email, or I'm strictly handling like finance stuff and back end stuff and things like that. But I mean, the day to day is pretty mundane, honestly. Just computer and like occasionally going out and filming. But I've kind of like lost the I don't know, a little bit of the fire of like kind of the random YouTube videos. Like I feel like YouTube doesn't reward that stuff at all. So I'm trying to get motivated to get back into that. If it's just like, I mean, we're starting up a new series of stuff for next year. It's just going to be once a month, and then trying to kind of get back into, I don't know. I feel like it depends on what day you hit me up, honestly, because I feel like when you do like quick turnaround stuff, it's better in the end, but then it's like less rewarding. So if I do longer turnaround stuff, maybe it elevates the content a little bit, but sometimes it doesn't. So it's just, YouTube is kind of like, I don't know. I feel like I don't take you caught me in like a conundrum, because I tell people when they talk about YouTube, I'm like, when you're creating stuff for YouTube, do the content that you want to do and don't start like chasing views. But basically my entire line of thinking right there was like the opposite of that. It was like I stopped doing content because the views didn't do good.
Yeah.
So it's like the opposite, so I kind of like caught myself. That was a massive contradiction right there. But yeah, I mean, the goal is always to do better. Honestly, like it comes in between stuff, and motivations can be fleeting. Burnout is real for me, and I tend to burn pretty hot and work my ass off, and then I'm like fucking ghosted. I'll ghost for 4 days, easy, like not respond to a single email or anything, and that's just like my coping of like, hey, I need to step away for a little bit. So, because I mean, it is a fine line within working within BMX and enjoying BMX. And it is the only thing that I've ever really, really gotten into. Like I like cars and I like stuff like that. I've built stuff over the years, but like, I never like went to car meets and like talked about the car, like I don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. Like I like the idea of like creating stuff, but BMX is like the only thing that was the whole way through. And sometimes I feel like if I work too much and I get too involved in like the drama aspect of it, or the unfun, all the money aspects of it, then it really destroys my motivation to like keep doing what I do. Mm-hmm. So I really try and protect that, if that makes sense.
Oh,
so
sure.
if I find myself like not liking things, I'll just take a step back and make sure that like I go ride bikes, or I just chill for a little bit, and then and then I'll find myself riding with my kid or some friends and be like, all right, now I remember why I put up with this shit or something, and then I'm motivated to come back. So it's just it's a balance. And sometimes for a couple of years, I was pretty bad at it, where I just had really, really bad burnout, where I essentially took like a sabbatical for like a month or something, month and a half, like not on paper by any means, but just doing the bare minimum. And I didn't have that this year. So I had it the last 2 years, and then this year I didn't have it. So I felt like I did a really good job of maintaining, because it is after I got the job at Ride when I was 21 and I'm 43 now.
Oh
So
wow.
it's like, 22 years. It's like, it, it, it can, I don't know, it can just be fleeting. You can find I've seen a lot of people just like end up hating it. And I
Mm.
don't want to be one of those people. I still love BMX. I still, like I said, my kid fucking face planted in front of the house an hour and a half ago. Like it, it's so much ingrained in my life, like every day on the bike, off the bike, that I have to love it in order
Mm.
to be able to do this shit still.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Man,
And sometimes it's like, yeah, like, because I feel like Brant gets at me all the time, and I'm like, dude, you don't, like, I've been on the phone with him, and he was talking about somebody else's mental health and the concerns for them. And I'm like, you don't know about me? Like, I'm not saying I have anything like crazy, but you haven't asked. Like, you don't, like, I'm not just like completely, like, I think must be when we were talking, I was like kind of spinning out or something, but it's like mental health and staying sane is like a luxury that I think I do have. So I try and exploit it, being my own boss. I feel bad for when people that don't, I feel like other people just don't have the option of like not going into work that day,
mm.
and so that's like, that is definitely a luxury that I do not take for granted. And I think sometimes it just comes from me like working too much, because the internet is 100% insatiable.
Yeah.
I could get on my phone and work for 24 hours. Easy. I could get on my computer, work for 24 hours. Easy. Not, and still be unsatisfied. Like, it just goes on forever. So you have to cut it off at a point. So
Oh man, I feel like
the magazines were great, because you'd be like, oh, fucking shot 15 photos. I'm fucking killing it. Yeah, like that's like 22 pages, like 30 pages, like, so yeah.
dude, I feel like you just said my life. I feel like yeah, sometimes if you're just working in BMX, it can definitely be something where, because you want to, inherently you love BMX, so you want to do a good
Yeah.
job and you're excited to do it, but you're also like, you can't move away from it. Like, that's actually where I found I had to get other hobbies that were outside of BMX, because I realized that a lot of people that work jobs or whatever, and then they were like couldn't wait to ride, whereas like for me, I was doing so much BMX that sometimes I was like, man, I don't know if I can just like, I don't really feel like riding,
Yeah.
Because
I went through that phase at Ride, like the very early days of Ride. I went through that hard. I'm like, oh, now my job is BMX. I don't want to ride BMX anymore. And it took me a while to rationalize that. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Obviously, I don't want to, like my whole thing is I want to preach how sick BMX is, but it's just,
Of course, yeah.
it's just
But a
funny.
job, but it's still, no matter what, it's still a job.
Yeah.
And just like being a pro bike rider is a job.
Mm.
Like no matter what, in my head, my wife hires people for a living. Like she's a recruiter for like in the tech world and stuff like that. She says that I am unhirable to any real job, and it's like I have such a luxury to like do this, that it's not taken for granted, that I kind of lost my train of thought, but the working in this, it's still a job is what I was getting at. And that there's so much shit that I don't want to do, but I've learned over the years that like if I don't want to do it and I don't have to do it, it's better to just not do it. Because then you're 6 months down the line of doing a bunch of shit you didn't want to do, and you are not enjoying it anymore, and you're not able to continue. So what was the point? So I try and maintain and do what I want to do more than anything else. If I'm on the line for something and I have to do it for advertiser purposes or filling stuff or whatever reasons, or I need to pay the fucking bills or something, like, then I'll do it, of course. But like on a day-to-day of like YouTube, like I'm just saying, like going out and filming riding bikes all day is like fun in theory, but also I just want to fucking ride bikes. I don't want to film other people riding bikes. And then also, I don't want to come back and fucking edit it either. So stop fucking doing it. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, so it's such an easy jump for me to make that I used to not be able to make. And so but I need to find some sort of middle ground with it, you know, so that I can actually go out and film and create stuff and ride a little bit. And, you know, so I think that's how we started this line, is the content for next year that I kind of want to do, also kind of not.
Yeah.
So, but I just feel like I feel like the way that we receive content now, like you can't go and do like a plaza edit anymore and stuff like that. And like when they did the Game a Bike thing, like I think it was Dennis's idea. I don't want to speak, but it was like it needed to be funded. And I was like, dude, the perception of like, not that they, and honestly, not even that they like approached me with the idea right off the bat anyways, but like the crowdfunded aspect that they started with, I was like, I cannot in no way, like the perception of Our BMX, massive, you know, media company being like crowdfunded, like, no, it just wouldn't work for us. Like I'll support you guys as much as I can to help get that going, but like that idea, that concept is not a possibility, you know. So it's just not, you know. And like Game of Bikes, like, I mean, it was super successful, but like Game of fucking Bike, like don't want to do that.
So with
but I think yeah, go ahead.
No, you go.
No. But I think there is room for like longer form, good content. That would be what I would like to do going forward. It's just you need that motivation and that free time and all that stuff. So
well, man, you're already doing it with the podcast. Like, I feel like you've put out, you know, you've helped facilitate that on such a wide level of the people that you have on. And, you know, one of my favorite ones was with Magoo, you know, like that was
yeah.
It's awesome. But I get what you're saying, you know, like sometimes when in pursuit of doing things for the greater good of BMX, it can be turn into a chore. And I think that you probably need to, you know, look after your mental health, like what you said, for sure. You know, going back to the ride days, since, you know, we'll liven up the excitement of cool shit that went down. Like, you know, that was obviously, like you said, you know, you shoot 15 photos and all of a sudden you've got a third of the magazine covered, you know?
Yeah.
Was there any standout moments that have happened for you where you were like, holy shit, like this is going to be something that I remember doing or shooting or going to?
I mean, I think stuff with Morgan was always, you know, if you asked if Morgan, Gary, and myself, if you asked us like, hey, what was the best road trip you ever been on? It was always this shitty road trip where we literally slept on the side of the road and going from San Diego up to Metro Jam. And we just rode all the cement parks on the way up. And then I think Gary got second and Morgan got third at the event, or they were in the top three of something, and then we drove back, and it was like, and then we were riding all these capsules, and Morgan did that double loop at Reedsport, and then that's when he came back and did Baldy, because it was like we did like the loop training tour basically, and so that was
drop the hammer.
Yeah. So that was like such a cool like trip for all of us, just like, you know, something that could never even be replicated, like just how we were and just how much we didn't give a shit. And, you know, like, I'm tired, you tired? Okay. And then just pull over on the side of the road, and then you wake up and we're like next to a baseball field with like little kids running around and stuff like that, you know? So it's just ridiculous, like kind of random stuff like that. And then as far as like gnarly stuff, I mean, El Toro stuff comes to mind. Kaczynski was always scary to shoot with, That's an El Toro one. So he had his one was good because it was well, first El Toro tooth hanger basically is what Kaczynski tried, and then I went there with Josh Harrington sometime before, maybe like a year beforehand, and it was a weekday, and I can't remember the exact circumstances of why, but it made sense. Is that for some reason, I had my gear split between two bags, and I don't know why. And basically, I brought everything except for my camera body
Oof.
to shoot Harrington tooth hanger El Toro. And the Harrington has done massive tooth hangers. I've shot him to like an 18 stare in Atlanta or something. And uh it was a weekday and I was like, dude, I'll go get it. Like it's like, it's 30 minutes away or something like that. He's like, no, it's fine. He's like, but to this day, if he was, if you bring it up, he's like, I was gonna do it, but then Fudger forgot his camera. Like that's always what he says. And then maybe like within a year after that, Kaczynski went to go hanger it, and just I think the clips are in Etnies, not forward but grounded,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And he just did the full Kaczynski crash, couple where he dropped early and then the back wheel hit the stairs and loop out pretty hard, and then he did the full, like the quintessential Kaczynski elbows on the ground thing. And if you watch the footage, he actually like bounces, like you could see the ground underneath him, and he got absolutely destroyed. And he was in my car driving back, and I remember we were on El Toro Road, not much of a secret where it is, and then we were close to the freeway, and I stopped at the gas station to get him like like, oh, you want anything to drink? He got like some water and then like pretzels, and he was eating the pretzels, and I was calling people that I knew had ruptured their spleen, asking them what it felt like, because Kaczynski like wasn't sure if he had ruptured his spleen or not. And then turns out that he felt okay enough. And then he has like this full story about how he flew to a wedding the next day, and he was like wearing a white shirt and he had bandages on, but it like bled through both his elbows. And so he was like, just like his white shirt was like bleeding at the wedding, like all the way through. And then the continuation is that El Toro, I don't know if something happened or if I just happened to be in San Diego or what, but he wanted a tooth hanger or something, and he went to the school. It's also not really a secret. It's Patrick Henry here, and he wanted a tooth hanger, the rail there, and it's like an 18 stair. It's pretty damn big, and it was also a weekday, and they drove down from Orange County, him and Mike Manzuri, for like the Etnies video or something. And it was a weekday. It was like 4:30 p.m. Like it was like getting dark, and Kaczynski did it first try.
Oh wow.
And it was like, and I got the photo and it actually worked, and I was like, oh, thank God it worked. Because my flashes, like, one of my flashes like wouldn't pop like 1 out of 5 times. Like one of those ones, like, why are you popping every single time? And then but it ended up working. Everything happened at the same time. So that's like one where it's like the worst, the dumbass move that didn't let it happen, the fucking body bag, and then the redemption. So like the El Toro thing was funny, but let's see if I have it just save you the video editing. It's a big ass rail for sure.
Damn.
So yeah,
that's sick.
And that's actually like 3 miles from my house now. So
oh wow.
Yeah.
Still
then
there?
It's still there. And then the DeMarcus one, that rail, which is the same one that Chad had the bar spin cover, doing it. I think it was like the 100th issue or something like that. That one's like 4 blocks from my house
Oh wow.
right now. So pretty funny. Like not at the time when I shot any of the photos, but I'm like, oh yeah, those are all really, really close now. So, but yeah, as far as memories, there's some of that stuff, and then there's like, I don't know, one of those things that kind of needs to be like
Triggered.
jarred
Yeah,
almost.
yeah,
Yeah, I could
yeah.
like look at stuff maybe, and there's a lot of funny ass ones. I got photo. I mean, I got stories, but
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know how long you want me for.
Mate, as long as it takes.
And then obviously this one's funny. I think maybe people don't see it on the podcast very much. Is that it's a Polaroid of Dennis whipping El Toro.
Holy shit. Damn, that's cool.
He ended up breaking his foot,
Oh
but
wow.
they didn't. I think he just hit me up on a whim and was like, "Hey, I want to whip El Toro," and I just went and shot photos, and then I think I just had the Polaroid, just had people snap the photo or whatever, and there was no video camera at all.
Oh
He was just like,
wow.
"Oh yeah, just whip it for the photo," like that was like the time period that he was in. He was like, "Yeah, 17, something like that." So, and I think he tried it like 4 times or 3 times, and then he kept slipping a foot, and then the last time it broke his foot. So,
Oh man.
but yeah, pretty funny.
It's so funny.
Whipping El Toro without a video camera.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
Is like, yeah,
It's so funny when cameras just never used to be a thing. Well, like I'm sure more so for you guys, there's probably a video camera around a lot, but like I was saying to someone the other day, I was like I was much better a photo era rider.
mm-hmm.
Like if
Yeah,
they needed an ad or if they needed like a photo for something, I could do that, no worries. Like I feel pretty confident about like getting photos, but fuck, getting clips is like such a different. And then
yeah.
and then with the modern era of like, it seems that you have to be getting clips all the time. It's like, man, that's a tough gig.
Yeah, yeah. I personally hate the way I look riding bikes. I actually do not like the way I look riding. And then I see I like think it looks a certain way, and then I see it and I'm like, oh my god, why am I so gross? So I really, like that. I don't. You probably never saw it, but there's that doorstep part that like, or doorstep video.
Nice.
It was Kramus and Jeff filmed it for the most part, but it was like all our Long Beach crew. So it was like kind of like almost like a chomp on this skateboarding version, because it was all industry dudes. So it was me, Zach, Jeff Z, Ben Ward,
Oh,
Aaron
cool.
Bostrom. And then so I had a video part in that, and I literally didn't watch a single clip. Like they were like, "Oh, do you want to see a clip?" And I was like, "No," because if I see it, I'm going to tell you that I don't like it and that you can't use it. So you make the call. I'm not going to dictate anything. I don't want to see it. I don't want so.
Yeah.
Well, that was the first time I saw every single clip. Was at the video premiere. So, but
Well, at least you got to have the premiere vibes for it.
yeah, no, it was cool to see, because honestly, I forgot like pretty much half of it or more. So because it was all just a byproduct of like us. It was a cool period in the Long Beach days of it kind of being. It was when Zach worked at Ride too. So it was just me, Jeff, and Zach all working at Ride, and then we just go out and actually ride bikes on a pretty regular basis. And our crew was not like everybody was good at riding bikes, but not like pro level stuff. Where I had a problem that like Sean McIntosh, who lived in Long Beach at the time, he was left side, and he is like kind of, if I was really, really good at riding bikes, I'd probably ride like Sean Mac. And so he would like do the shit that I was sweating as a warm up. And I'm like, "Hey Jeff, like if we're going to film this video,
This dude can't come.
yeah, I was like, Sean's the fucking best. Like literally, like it fucking is amazing. But I'm not gonna want to film anything if Sean just does it as a warm up every time. Like, damn it. So, I think I probably would get over it. There had to be a couple times where I just got over it. Where I was like, I'll I'll do it still, but so just give me an hour. So
Let Sean go
but
get a beer or something, and then you can do it.
yeah, let Sean do his like, his warm up and then add two or three things to it, and then I'll take the original thing. So,
Yeah.
but it was a good time period just of like organic, like, oh shit, we have a video. That's great.
Yeah,
So
that's sick.
not trying, not really like putting a bunch of effort to like we need to go film or anything like that. It was just a representation of what we were doing for a time period, which was
Mm,
cool. So,
that's
but
sick.
it's a Doorstep BMX on YouTube. I
On
think it's
YouTube.
on the
Oh,
Ride
sick.
channel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
I think it's on the Ride channel.
I'll
Yeah,
link it
yeah,
in the description so then
yeah.
people can watch it.
Prepare to be unimpressed.
Never. Um, with I didn't get to really talk to you about this, but we've obviously sort of talked a little bit about Ride BMX and then the Our
Yeah.
BMX, but I really want to understand how that felt for you, the transition. Transitioning from
Yeah,
Ride to Our, and obviously you were talking about burnout before. Was it something
yeah.
that crossed your mind where you were like, maybe I'm just going to let this go and go work at Jiffy Lube?
Yeah, I think there was that phase. So when we got let go again under very fortunate circumstances, me being there for like 18 or 19 years, and then Jeff was there for 21, and then Adam Watkins, he was there for like 9 or 10 years. Adam Watkins was like the sales dude at Ride. And he ended towards the last like 3 or 4 years of his role there. He was also the sales dude for Bike Mag, which was like the mountain bike magazine under the same roof. Um, so we were fortunate enough to get severance, and that basically boiled down to like a month of pay for every 2 years we had been there.
Oh, wow.
So in my instance, I basically got, was it 9 months, 9 months of pay.
Hmm.
Um, so super fortunate in that
Mm.
sense. So we got let go on January 31st. So beginning of February. So then I was basically almost good the rest of the year for, just my same money, no job, same money.
Wow.
So a huge blessing just because that was in January 2019. So a year later, COVID hits, and then the same company basically work furloughs a massive amount of the staff for the remaining titles that were there. Which, I don't know if you guys have that in Australia, but basically means you're not fired, but you don't have a job that you can
Yeah,
work
yeah.
right now. And when stuff picks back up, well, you're welcome to come back, but we're not paying you. You can go get another job if you want. So it's basically like purgatory.
Hmm.
They have a job, but they don't have a job. Like, what the fuck is this, basically? Um, so we got super lucky in that sense. If it would have happened a year later, we would have been 100% fucked. So
Mm.
um, then there's the whole element of that we thought we were going to be able to buy Ride for a certain amount of time. Basically, the new owners spun the story to us that like, hey, like literally the president of the company was like, hey, there is a path for you guys, and that path, like at the table that we all got fired, he's like that the path was like, we want you to own the brands. The brands are you guys, because he's talking to us and he's talking to Transworld Motocross, and Transworld Motocross was like a 15-year magazine that was the guy Don Mieta, who was the senior editor of the first issue and the last issue. So it was effectively his title. He was the brand. And so they spun a story that we could potentially buy it, and then there's what the reality was, I have no idea. But they never, the guy, there was so many there was like a fiasco with Jeff Bezos' dick pics here. And so the guy that leaked his pics was the head of the company that bought Ride.
Oh, you're joking.
And so yeah, so then there was this massive like fiasco here, and then that like there was a one part that was like, oh, maybe that they're not gonna sell any titles because it's gonna look like the company is offloading titles, and it's not gonna look bad optics wise in this dick pic climate or something like that. I don't know, but and then there's a whole other element that we think the main reason that they did this was just to keep us quiet as long as possible to figure out what they wanted to do. And in the end, they never once gave us a number for the company that they ever wanted at all. Never even a range, six figures, seven figures. We had no idea. Not a single number was ever told to us. And then we just kind of concluded that it was probably more advantageous for them to just write it off as like a, a tax loss, like a capital loss on taxes, and money could be served there. So if they sold us Ride for whatever 200 grand or something like that, but then the brand is, they're saying that the brand is worth 2 million on paper, a 30-year legacy brand with all these titles and stuff, like $2 million doesn't seem far-fetched probably at all. And then they're like, well, it's just undervaluing the rest of those brands that they bought, because they had Transworld Surf, they had Transworld Snow, so if they offloaded it for any sort of like reasonable number, and I'm not even saying 200, we would have even been able to afford 200 grand, but like who knows what, just the numbers are so crazy in that world, and with the millions and millions and billions that they have, because the parent company is AMI, which is like the fucking National Enquirer basically and stuff like that. Just a massive publishing company that just has their hands in a bunch of stuff. So it was never going to happen, essentially. But after we kind of came to the conclusion that we weren't going to get it, and even at that point, like Adam Watkins was like it was a really big motivator for starting something of ourselves or our own. And then he was like, look, even if we do end up buying Ride, we still need to start a company to be able to buy it. And so we can have a parent company for Ride. So we need to start a company no matter what. And then, so that's why we started this. And then it just kind of got to a point shortly after that it was like, all right, what if we're not ever going to get it? And we're just sitting here like twiddling our thumbs. So we kind of impulsively like just made an Instagram, and it was like our _ BMX at that point. And then we had that for a little while. And then, so I guess going back to your question, was there was definitely a time period where I wasn't sure it was going to work. And then and I love my wife, but she was smart, and she was like, hey, all right, if you're going to do this, like, let's give it 6 months, and then we can revisit it. Like, not like before your severance is done. You still have a couple months to figure your shit out, but then you can kind of re-gear and see if this is what you are trying to actually do going forward. And then fortunately we had some momentum, a lot of momentum just from Ride, that we were the guys from Ride doing this. And then we, Source jumped on like right away for literally the same amount that they were paying at Ride for. So they like literally just like a gift. And then we had a couple other brands maybe do the same. And then so we were doing, okay for a little bit. I mean, I don't think we took a check for like a year starting the company. And then and then we had the Our BMX thing and stuff like that, which was something that I had at Ride. We had that at Ride beforehand, so I just basically stole that. So, the short story, but they they also, sorry, they basically, the company that let us go, my old boss hit me up and was like, hey, they had some like licensing and deal in like Brazil. They'd send photos down there. They'd show up on like school binders or something like that. Every once in a while, we'd see a photo of them. I guess it was pretty lucrative for them. Uh, but he hit me up and he was like, but because they can't just like grab photos from the archive. They need because it's something different. They need the rider's permission, and then they need the photographer's permission. They need like everything all sandwiched and nice and clean for these photos to be like just farmed out. And so he called me up and it was like, hey, would you have any interest? We can pay you. And I was like, nope. Like, fuck you. No. Like in a nice way. Like, all due respect, fuck you. No, I will not take any money from you guys. I will never do that. And I hung up the phone and then like 15 minutes later, I was like, I'll do it for At BMX. Like, and he's like, huh. He's like, all right, well, let me call you back. And then he called me back and he was like, all right, you can have At BMX, but we need, well, I can't remember the exact number. He's like, we need 12 photos or 20 photos or something every 3 months for the rest of time.
Oh shit.
And I was like, all right, because I know you motherfuckers are going to forget in a little while, and this is definitely just a handshake deal. Like, and he was like kind of laughing while he was telling me, but he was like, and I was like, all right, done. And then so I gave him photos, and I think I gave him 2 batches of photos, and then he never followed up, and COVID hit, and everybody got fired anyways.
Oh wow.
So that's how we got At BMX. So when we had At BMX at Ride, I would just post like cool photos every once in a while, and then the DMs were really entertaining because it was all people like being like, hey, can I buy the account? And I'd be like, let me ask my mom how much I should get for it and stuff like that. Like I would just troll them in the DMs all the time and like screenshot it and just like laugh about it. And so that it was just like a joke account that, it had maybe like 8,000 followers or something. I posted on it like once every couple months to like make sure it was like semi-active so we didn't have any issue. But that account, Instagram actually gave to Rod.
Oh, really?
Oddly enough. Yeah, so Instagram, I don't know, the dude had a meeting with Instagram or something, and they were like, oh yeah, we have like At BMX, do you want that? And
wow.
He was like, he asked me, and I was like, yes. So that's how we got it. So it's like it's not under any like mischievous things or anything like that. But so Instagram literally gave us At BMX, which is pretty insane.
Oh, that's insane.
So, but yeah, and then it got hacked for a little bit, which is also a fucking batshit crazy story. And then I ended up getting it back again. So
crazy.
Sucked. But yeah, so somebody took over my phone. Basically, they did the SIM card hacking.
Oh, right.
So on July 4th here, so it's a holiday, so there's no AT&T stores open, so you can't go get a new SIM. So when you type in you say forgot password, and then you type in your email, and then it sends the code to your phone. But it didn't go to my phone, it went to his phone.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So the 2-factor is actually the way in, not more secure.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah, so don't turn off 2-factor.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
And actually, if it's anything, that's my tip for anybody is if it's something really, really important, have a email account that nobody knows that you use for everything, and then that's literally tell nobody that email account exists anywhere. Don't use it for anything other than like those important accounts, and then that's because you have 3 things that they don't know essentially is the email, your password, and then your the access to your phone. And so it's another barrier.
Holy shit.
So my email's everywhere. Yeah. So that's why that's how they were able to get in. So
wow, that's freaking crazy.
Yeah. So
dude, I always wondered how you got that BMX Instagram name.
Oh yeah, it's insane. Yeah.
Wow,
it was like, I mean, we had it for like 4 years or something before anything happened. So it was just like a joke.
Wow.
So, because Ride already had whatever hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers, so we weren't doing anything with it. But yeah.
Wow, that's sick.
And so now that GT's gone, maybe so you can get BMX.com. I should actually send that text.
Huh.
Let's send that to Jeff right now. I shouldn't have said that out loud.
I can edit it out.
Yeah, no, it's all good. They almost gave it to me like a year and a half ago. But yeah, BMX.com goes to the GT like pseudo media company site. But
that's hectic.
But yeah, so yeah, like, oh yeah, like, what about BMX.com?
Dude, that's.
But then when we got the Instagram account, there was this utopian empirical debate on whether or not I should have it. Like, you don't represent BMX. I'm like, yeah, I know, I don't. Like, I'm not saying that. Or not. When you go to @BMX on Instagram, it should be all of BMX. I'm like, do you go to @cars? Is every single car on there? Like,
yeah.
What are you talking about? Go to @baseball. Like, it's not. Nobody thinks that they're looking at all of BMX and representing. Like, it's an Instagram page. Like, it's not.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so, but
yeah, man, far out BMX. BMX can be fickle sometimes with people. Like, that's one of the. One of the things that I think is really important. Like, going back to what I said earlier about how you or Our BMX is kind of just there to represent BMX, right? Like, you'll go to a feast, but then you'll also go to the freaking jam, the Cash Up Jam or whatever it is. Like, or you'll go to all sorts of things. It doesn't even have to have money included in it.
Yeah. It's not. It's. I truly do like all aspects of BMX. Like, I have my preferences, of course. Like, I don't necessarily care. It's hard for me to get into the feast stuff when I'm not there.
Yeah.
And so it is better when I can go to it, and I can't, unfortunately, go to Budapest unless they pay me. And it's like that's the way it goes. Like, it costs like $3,000 to get out there and stay at a hotel. Like, it's just not feasible to make whatever $190 on YouTube revenue or something afterwards. Like, it's all a gamble. Like, even Swamp Fest is like the videos do crazy, but it's like, after a flight, a car, an Airbnb, paying somebody else to help me out, like, while I'm there, it's like, it's generally maybe a year later I break even or something. Like, it's not some like I'm loaded now type scheme with any of that stuff. So it is. I try and, Our BMX came from the idea of like Ride getting taken away from us, and I still kind of hate OUR BMX. Like, it's just not a graceful word by any means, but it is what it is, and it was meant to just represent, like, this is our BMX. Like, this is what our version of it, and it is a direct reflection of, like, the dudes that work in it. Ever since James, who does like the early 2000s account, there's been a lot more park riding on the @BMX account, and I'm like, kind of like, Albert, get fucking in there. Albert, Pat, get in there, you need to post more, like that type of stuff. And then I even like texted Grant C, and I was like, you want the password for the account, and you could just post whatever you want whenever you want, like, zero rules, zero anything, like just post occasionally. And he's like, yeah, I'm down. So it's like, it's always meant to just try and cover everything, but not specifically one genre by any means. So I am a fan of all of it, and I do enjoy all of it. So I think that's part of, I'm not trying to guess your age, but that's my generation of riding was doing all of it. So I go ride in parks, but mostly I enjoy watching, and if I'm feeling spicy, then I can go participate in riding street. But that's what I grew up doing, was riding street. So and trails too. I shouldn't even call them trails. In San Diego, they're dirt jumps for sure. So
yeah, man,
dude,
I feel the same way. Like, that's how I'm, if you want to know my age, I'm 38. So it's I just like, I like the idea of representing BMX in all forms, I have my own preference too, like with what I like doing. Like obviously I like riding trails and bowls and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie for the sake of sounding cool and be like, oh no, Feast is whatever, it's whack, or I think I think that, to be honest, whack personalities is what's whack. Like there's sick dudes and girls that ride in the Feast contest. We had Sasha from England, the girl, she rides for Great Britain. She was at Act Jam.
Yeah, she's sick.
And she's such a sick. She's like a little Hessian with a top tube pad.
Yeah, it's like her song at the Feast thing is Motley Crue. Like she literally she gets all fired up and stuff. Like, that's amazing.
So like a lot of people kind of forget. I think when they look at that stuff on a superficial level, they think that these people are so far different, but then you realize like, oh, they're actually the exact same. They just happen to work really hard to try and do
there are elements. There are elements of people that are, like, they are pretty far removed. Like when Nick had that video about like kind of trying to bring us together and stuff like that, about like, hey, we train and we ride just as hard as you guys do and blah blah blah. And I'm like, he's kind of forgetting that there's a whole aspect of BMX that doesn't give a fuck about what tricks they do. Yeah. And he's like, I'm like, he's trying to relate, but he's actually missing the mark. He's like, literally, there's an entire subsect of BMX that goes out and just fucking runs into shit all night at the and just puts their pegs on stuff, and then they fucking drink a beer and talk shit to each other. And that's it. And nobody learned a single thing. It's just, that's their routine. Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of forgetting that, and I think that's like an important, if going back to what I think when you said, when like just the life at Ride was that it gave me such a diverse, like I was thrown into such diverse things all the time, whether it was like the some of the do tours that I went to, and then it was an FBM road trip, and then it was shooting a Steve McCann Mongoose interview at Woodward, and then it was like, I don't even know, like a fucking, oh god, what was the Greg Walsh company?
Oh, like Primo?
No, after Primo, the one that was gone.
Coalition?
No, that's all right.
Coalition.
Coalition, like coalition trips to being, like there was just such, and then I would go on DC footwear trips and Red Bull trips, and then I would be back to sleeping on a floor in this one, and it was such a, and then within that were all the personalities that I got to interact with, and all the different, the A types and the B types, and the people that were like incredible at bike riding, but then they just fucking kind of sucked. And then and then the people that were really good at telling people how good they were riding bikes, but then not really riding bikes anymore. And, and then the young kids and the old dudes, and just that full gamut of 18 years of personalities, like kind of formed me into the fact that like, yeah, they're all human and they all like love this shit in their own way, but not the same way, like not in the same way. And I think that's where Nick went a little bit wrong, not in the same way, but they all love it in their own way. And that it's like important to like understand that you guys are all like in this game together in a lot of ways, and it is, you don't need to talk shit on other disciplines and be whatever, but I don't know. It's just not that big, you should still say what up. If you see a BMXer, still say what up. Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah.
If you don't know. Yeah. So, 100%. but it is, there are a lot of different type of personalities and a lot of aspects of BMX. And I think that's one of the, the downfalls of BMX in a lot of ways. There's so many fucking different ways to ride it. You can fucking race, you can fucking flatland, dirt, like it's all so specialized, and it's like, it just gets divided up, and then you have fucking red bikes and black bikes and 21 inch and 14 inch and 75 and like that. I wouldn't want to be a company owner.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think like what you said, I love the fact that Australia seems to have, there's this whole majority of BMX riders in Australia, in my opinion, are just like the working class Australians. Probably in America too, you know what I mean? But obviously, because we see from the outside in, a lot of our media, especially me growing up, came from the US. So you got that vibe of competitive riding, and perhaps that's why Australian riders got so fucking good, is because they only had that to look at, and they were like, oh well, I guess 720s and double tail whips are the thing. But yeah, it gets me so stoked that people will continue to ride BMX for their entire life, even though they work a job, and they might not even ride for a whole month, but they've, you know, fucking pedaling down the street and finding a sick curb to hop out of is the thing, you know.
It is one of those things where I'm sure you have those friends that like, they're like, oh, I'm fucking over it. You know, and maybe they say it or they don't say it. But then like 2 years later, 3 years later, they come like crawling back through the door, you know, like, like they start cruising around a little bit, and they're like, all right, this is fun. I forgot, like, it reminded me I miss it. Like, it's such a ingrained thing for all of us that you kind of like have to, it is part of your sanity, you know. It really is, you know. Dennis would say, oh, free drugs, like, it's like, that's, you know, he wanted to call his band's video Free Drugs, and they were like, no. So I think they went with his kid's name. Yeah.
Similar.
It actually is kind of similar.
Yeah, it's similar.
It's kind of similar. Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, obviously, you know, you've been pumping out Our BMX and the Unclicked Podcast. I think it's been sick that you've, you know, joined up with. Was it Dennis that was doing that solo?
It was, yeah, it was Dennis's podcast.
And you were doing
when he
Feeble Talk? Was that not? Was it,
Feeble Talk was Ride.
Oh, okay.
Feeble Talk was Ride.
You guys,
and then so after, well, the I feel like maybe I've said it once or twice, but the story as it went was, Dennis essentially quit the podcast, and then I sent him a text kind of just fucking with him, but like, you know, poking essentially. I was like, oh, now that you quit the podcast, how much can I buy all the shit off of you so I can start mine? And then he sent me this, like, you know, like a pretty like lengthy text back that was basically like, oh, it'd be sick if you took it over, and then, you know, maybe I could join in a couple and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh shit, I wasn't even thinking that. I was like, just like, sell me the shit so I could start my own, like that type of thing. And then, so we ended up talking about it, and then went from there that we would do them together, but it wasn't meant to be every time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the first one, and or it's like when I took over, was Gary, I believe. And Dennis almost bailed like 2 hours beforehand. He's like, oh, I'm just going to let you guys are best friends. I'm going to let you do it, blah, blah, blah. And then Gary convinced him to do it. And then he, after the podcast was over, he's like, yeah, I fucking love this. He's like, this is perfect. I don't have to do, it's not set up on my table in my dining room. I walk in, I talk to you, or I talk, we bullshit, I leave, it's perfect. Oh yeah, that's fine. So that's kind of how it all came together. And then when he quit for maybe like 8 months or something, I think. And that was after he had his kid and he was trying to finish the video part. And then at that point, he also lived maybe 25 minutes from me, like a little bit of a trek. So, you know, it was basically, say 30 minutes. So it was basically an hour there and back on the car. You had some, you know, bullshitting before the podcast, some bullshitting after the podcast. Podcast would potentially go 2.5, 3 hours. And then, so you're 5 hours in. And at that point too, my kid was really young, and, you know, the walls in San Diego, there's nothing in them. So it just shoots right through the wall basically. So my office was next to my kid's bedroom. So if it was at night, we would have woke the kid up. So they had to be during the day. So it basically eat an entire day,
Mm.
And so he's like, dude, something's got to fall off, and it has to be the podcast. It makes perfect sense. Like, no worries. I totally understand. You have a kid that pushes, that goes to the top. You have the girl, you have the job, you have the podcast falls off. Like, that makes perfect sense. So eventually, we sorted it out, and then, well, I ended up. Did I move first, or did he move first? I ended up moving more north, and then he ended up selling his house and moving further east, and so now we're only 8 minutes apart from each other.
Oh, cool.
So it's literally like, we get in your car and put on maps, it says 8 minutes.
Mm.
So we are, undeniably close. So it's if his house, my house, and then his backyard ramps are basically like a little 8 minute triangle between all of them.
Oh,
I'm
damn.
8 minutes from his house and 8 minutes from his ramps, and he's 8 minutes from his ramps. So it's like we're in like a perfect little triangle.
That's sick.
So it works out well in that way, and that was part of the reason why he ended up coming back too, because it was the proximity thing and stuff like that. And his kid was older, and my kid was older, so we could do them at night. So it just worked out, and we dictated the rooms by podcast too, or by office. So we have a room in between the my kid's room now. So
Yeah, sick.
yeah, so tried to be smart about it, So
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, so it was his podcast, and it's been going. I mean, we haven't counted episodes, but I mean, he did quite a few just on his own, and then I mean, you could see, those are just Polaroids,
Oh, yeah, that's
and
sick.
we didn't start those up for a while, so you probably can't see it, but Magoo is the only person that is not looking at the camera because he couldn't fucking stop talking.
Oh,
I was
really?
like, dude, I'm shooting the photo. Like, you need to stop talking. Stop talking for 5 seconds so I can shoot the photo. So, I was like, but yeah, I mean, it's been a long time, and it is pretty crazy that we're kind of still doing it, And I try and, I don't know. I feel like if I'm doing something, I'm committed to do it for, like, I'm not going to do it for a couple of times. I'm going to do it for a really, really long time, and it's just been going. So it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice if we don't do it for like 3 or 4 weeks, though, it gets hard.
Oh, yeah.
You're like that like, for some reason, it's some little hurdle to like sit down and do it again. So, but
Yeah, you got to fit into that.
still
You got to
going.
get into that groove. Hey, it's a bit weird when you don't talk to someone for a while. It's like, ooh, I don't know what to say.
And it's funny too right now, because we've actually had 3 episodes like shot, but we haven't put one out for a while because I think we're having problems with the Bonner one, like syncing the audio or something.
Okay.
The editors at Kiko's having problems with it. So
sure.
I think I need that one to come out first, because we have a Dan Kruk one edited, but I think I talk a little bit about Bonner's podcast in it. So
Okay.
I like don't want it to be out of line.
Yeah.
So we have Bonner, Castillo, and Dan Kruk all shot. And then the Castillo one is with Rooftop, because he's trying to add in a bunch of like B-roll and photos and stuff like that. He wants to make it super special for Brian, basically.
That's cool.
Because Brian's not going to do another podcast. That was just one podcast. That's it. That's all we're ever getting, I think. So he wants to make it super special for Brian. So, which is super cool for me, because Brian was like one of, if not my favorite bike rider growing up. So I've always been a fan of his. So
That's sick. Yeah. Man, I had a volume growing up. Chris Bennett version, Flatline or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Dude, you should do a podcast at Dennis's ramps and call it In Between Runs.
I was gonna do one where if we do them during the day, I was call it like After Click. So it'd be like the session after the podcast, but with the alcohol and stuff. It's like,
true. Yeah.
I don't know. We did Ryan Williams during the day, and that dude had like fucking 4 beers or something, including the red ones, which are like the 9% like double ones. And then he went to Dennis's ramps and he did that pocket flare, which was
really?
I'm pretty sure like NBD, basically like a actual pocket flare. I was like, I think he's like may not be able to drive. Not sure.
Yeah.
So it was pretty impressive. I mean, obviously, he's a fucking freak of nature. So
Yeah, he's
an actual like cyborg or something. So
dude, that's like Jason, man. He can ride super hammered and does it better.
that is true. That is true.
I
I'm
don't
looking
know.
forward to him coming back. I think he comes back in a couple of months.
Yeah, he's excited too. He just got his
Yeah.
hernia fixed, so he's
Oh,
he's stoked.
the one on the gooch.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
gnarly,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
he's all good.
not
So,
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, Ryan, what do you have stacked 2025? Your plans for Christmas?
Christmas, we're just chilling. Like, I don't really have much family, and my wife doesn't really have. She has a little bit of family out in Chicago area, but they're staying put. We're staying put. So, kind of just chilling at home, making it special for the kid. Now that he's probably gonna have a black eye tomorrow, but but um, yeah, nothing crazy there. And then 25, I mean, I was looking at airline status stuff the other day, and it was like 44 flights in 24. So that was a lot. I flew a lot in 24, so I'm hoping for a
Wow.
lot less. Yeah, so the only event that I have right now is that Triple Challenge series, and I film those generally for Monster. So that's like it's a little incestuous, but it's like a side gig. Like I end up doing a lot of like work for Monster generally through the year.
Cool.
And sometimes it's like I'll literally shoot like fucking. I've shot skateboarding for them. I've shot like tour water events. Like it's random stuff throughout the year. So I do that, and then obviously we kind of double dip it and make it all work for Our BMX and for Monster, and then so that's like I think they're essentially like 3 weeks in a row, or like I think it's 3 out of 4 weeks essentially in January and February. So that's that, and then I know there's Simple Session. I know there's Swamp Fest. X Games is in July. I don't know. Yeah, I don't. Outside of that, no real plans, but I'm sure.
I'll get you out here for Act Jam in November, and then that way
Dude,
they can actually be
my
a
wife's-
video on time.
right? My wife has been talking about Australia. She's never been, but she's romanticized the idea of heading out there and checking it out. So maybe I can what's the two birds, one stone type thing,
Yeah.
make a family trip out of it, and
Yeah.
and have some fun after or before jam before or something.
Yeah, that'd
So,
be cool. Yeah, well, November
Yeah.
7 to 9, I haven't announced it yet, but I guess this is kind of an
Oh,
announcement.
okay.
That'll be when I
Okay.
will do it this year. So
Yeah.
I'll keep you in the loop. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, if I can double dip it, then let's just make it happen. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah. But yeah, I appreciate all you do, and like I said, I tried to tell like as many people that would talk to me about the podcast in Australia. I'd be like, fucking email me, like let me know if you know the news podcast is at the end of the month. If you want to take an hour and just send me an email with stuff that happened in Australia like 5 days before the end of the month, that'd be pretty sick. But like nobody like it's I know how it goes. It's a lot easier. Or I could send you the link to the Google sheet if you want, and then you just bookmark it. And then just add a couple of things in, because I've sent it to multiple people before. I think Stu, J-Ro, somebody else has access to it. So it's like it's one of those things that I want it to be updated. I want it to be all encompassing. I don't want to miss stuff.
Cool.
And and that's the goal for it. It's not supposed to be Southern California. What the hell happened in Southern California? It's not. It's meant to be all encompassing, but it's hard
For sure.
And we obviously missed a lot of shit. So I feel bad because I feel like Australia. I feel like Boyd's been the voice of our Americanism. That we're like, yeah, I'm sorry. So
yeah, I mean that's a big reason why I went to that the Cash Up thing, because it's like I don't get very much opportunity
Yeah.
to go to jams that other people are running.
Yeah.
And it's sick to.
No, I mean, I thought it was sick. I thought it was sick you went to Battle of Hastings when you were nominated for Nora and stuff like that. Like,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
it's such a cool experience. That event is so cool, and getting to a Nora Cup and like seeing that it's like an actual like thing and stuff like that is important, you know. And that's part of the reason why I go to stuff for a couple of days, even when I'm, you know, is the travel time is just as long as the time I'm there. But like, I think it's important to like go to stuff.
Yeah.
Like I can only sit in a room and talk about BMX for so long. I have to actually like experience it too, you know. So it's just as important. Otherwise, then what the fuck am I talking about? So and it goes back to what I was saying too. Is like I enjoy it. I love fucking pedaling around the street and filming a bunch of crazy shit and meeting a bunch of people. Like that is fucking. That was such a cool ass day, and that like stuff carries me. You know, it makes me want to ride, makes me want to do more shit. So,
for sure. Yeah, once you make memories, man, that's the thing that keeps you going. Like, you know, that's the thing that gets you stuck on BMX is when you make your first sick BMX memory, and then just keep on going from there. But yeah, man. Well, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast, dude. I really appreciate it. I know that it's an extra amount of time that you have to allocate, especially so close.
No,
to
all good,
Christmas,
all good. It's a holiday week. My kid's out of school. I'm trying to be a you know, not work this week and chill. So try and, you know, build up that energy for the first basically or the second. Of like, I'm gonna kill it this year.
Hell yeah. Yeah, dude. Well, you're already killing it, man. And speaking from someone who has grown up literally reading you reply to letters in Ride BMX.
Oh yeah. Well, that was a persona. That was a persona. That was a persona.
I actually remember thinking before I met you, I was like, "Fuck, I hope he's not an asshole like he was when I was 16."
No,
reading.
it was literally. I would tell you my strategy is that I would get hammered, and then I would type out my responses to the letter, and then I would decipher them the next day. Like my humor and like how much I cared was so out of the window. Sometimes I wouldn't even like talk about anything. It would just be like a couple sentences, and then I'd be like, all right, I got to wrangle this in the next day, and I'd make it like more coherent and sharper. And then that was generally my strategy. But that comes from like Magoo answered the letters before I did. James Shepard answered the letters before I did. That ride was always had the fucking snarky asshole responding to letters. So I was like, oh, this was the best part about it, reading Magoo's answers when I was a kid. I'm going to try and keep this going, you know? So that was, I'm a little bit of an asshole, but not like ride letters asshole. That was like, nobody could be that much of an asshole. So
man, it's crazy to think, I used to cut out, I actually found them when I moved from Canberra to Queensland. I used to cut out the music reviews and then take them to the CD shop, you know, obviously before Spotify and shit like that.
Yeah.
And just go off. I'd be like, buy this $30 CD based on a Ride BMX.
Tom Hagen.
Yeah, you know, it was maybe a dude named Jared.
Oh, Jared Sowney.
Yeah.
It'd
be like quite a few emo and indie type shit, as it all was back in there. But yeah, it's sure. You know, it's a cool. I'm really glad that I got to be able to live through that, and the fact that I'm getting to speak to you now is a privilege, man. So appreciate it a lot.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing too, and then I'll remind me and I'll send you the link for that. I think I need to create an entire new one for 2025 anyway. So
okay.
But I'll send you a link for the Google Sheet for the podcast, and if you want to update it, cool. And we're already subbed and all that stuff, so I appreciate you and
sick, man,
and your time. Yeah,
no worries, dude. Awesome, mate. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
See you, buddy.